Say what you will about Palestine Action, in the end, they are essentially opposing a genocide. Now, obviously, when you have such stakes so high as being against and resisting and showcasing a kind of a political kind of action against a state that is committing a genocide. And this is a central point. We must not forget, deflect, or be led astray by the fact that genocidal acts have been committed, mass slaughter events have been committed by a state. And as the state that is trying to whitewash its image, spending $700 million dollars, I believe, to kind of engage in this propaganda war, up from about 7 million. So that goes to show the for them, there is a desperate attempt to kind of clamp down on kind of the truth seeker, the truth spreading, and the engagement with truth, and an expression of ourselves, of human beings, looking at what's happening in reality, and kind of taking up our political solidarity to the streets, to whatever political action is taking place. And I'm not saying this as a political actor or Palestine Action. I'm not I'm not part of that organization, but we can see quite clearly they are opposing a genocide. Now, that has to be taken into consideration when it comes to the state criminalizing their actions, and the kind of the state punishing them for whatever sabotage or whatever vandalism that is they were committed. That has to be taken into consideration. However, Palestine Action, this group that has been effective in some degree in let's say delaying, but not necessarily stopping any of the genocide, at least delaying or somewhat doing bare minimum as human beings. And let's not forget that when it comes to anger or resistance to violence, to oppression, those are very human qualities. This is as human as you can get. It's I mean, just and I'm not talking about political, the militarized form of violence. That's a discussion for another time. But simply resisting, simply opposing violence on an innocent population, whether it's Samud flotilla, whether political action on a street, protesting, political action, this is a human response to seeing the violence that that is meted out on the Palestinians, on now other groups of people, people of Lebanon, people of Iran, people of Syria, people, the list goes on and on, because it requires a great deal of violence in order to maintain this ethno-state that is built on a mountain of lies, an ever-growing mountain of lies. So Palestine Action are now being treated like they're terrorists. They're facing jail as if they were terrorists, which again is the leveraging this is very much this hugely this kind of this word terrorism. It has a very strong bearing to it. It has been utilized by people in power of empires to justify massacres, when really it's the people in power, the empires, the oppressive entities, the Third Reich, that are the ones who are terrorizing. They're doing worse than terrorism. They're doing genocide. Genocide is obviously worse than terrorism, because the point of terrorism is to frighten the population in order to have things go in their political direction, whereas genocide is complete eradication or massive eradication of people. And let's not forget, simply being called a word doesn't make you or it doesn't justify being called that word. It's obvious, isn't it? If somebody called you a tree hugger or something, or somebody calls you a slur or an insult or an offence, simply being called that doesn't necessarily mean you embody the accusation. Obviously, we know this as children, and taunting, the name calling. However, there is a heavy price paid attached to this name, and let's not forget, and this is something that cannot be overstated. The Third Reich called its enemies terrorists. I mean, what other argument can, what, this is why we need to, make the case that language, is such a powerful tool, and how media controls narratives, how controls even the sway of people's opinions, because it is a powerful tool, and we must seek the truth to see what's beyond the words and to see what is actually going on. Because when you repeat a lie enough times, it kind of interrupts people's subconscious, and it convinces them to believe in lies and liehood. Now, I'm not here to tell you that Palestine action are good or bad, but I know that there is a slippery slope here. Even though obviously they're opposing a genocide, and so therefore their actions have nothing to, there's no comparison to the genocidal actions of a behemoth of a nation that is backed by the world's strongest military in the world. But as a truth seeker, and people who are watching my video are presumably truth seekers, we must see the kind of the power balance that is going on here, the kind of the utilization of words, of slander, of smears, in order to enact a political campaign of violence. And yes, it's true. And this is shown in our media too. From the Star Wars trilogy, where they call Jedi's, whether they call them vermin, or this is used against the Palestinians too, vermins, or even Third Reich calling their enemies terrorists. In Handmaid's Tales, they call the Mayday, the resistance kind of organization, terrorists. And obviously, to the point of view of the oppressor, of the privileged, people who are seeking justice, of equality, they are seen as the greatest threat, and therefore they need to use something that's most powerful in order to justify to the general population why they must commit genocide, why they must do a cull of their enemies. Anyways, so much more to be said here, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That'd be very much appreciated. Thank you.